Chap tales. Don't you wanna hear some chap tales? Hello, yes, and it is time for another chap tale. We're completely not talking about music, but just a thought that came into my head, and I needed to tell you. All right, so when I was like 16, 17, me and my pals we was right into having scooters, you know, mopeds, whatever you want to call them, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking Vespas and Lambrettas. I'm talking more modern. I had a Gilera runner. Friends of mine had Peugeot Speed Fights, all sorts of bikes, even a City Express. Anyway, there was one day, and there was like, I don't know, probably about 6-7 of us on our bikes, like around Ingester Road, where we all used to live and hang about. And so we're all sitting there. What should we do? So they said, all right, sweet, let's go down to Southend for the day. It was like, all right, sweet. So we all filled our bikes up with petrol and got everything we needed and that, and so we set off. And it was quite funny, like, because my friend Dean used to have this moped, or whatever you call it, scooter or whatever. It was Peugeot, but it was a bike called a Zenith S, and it was this like little black and red thing he had. And like most of my pals at that time, I might have been a bit older than them, and that's why I had like a Gilera Runner 125. I was 17. I think most of them lot were all 16, so they were still on their 50cc bikes. But I can remember on the way down to Southend, like on whatever A road we was on or whatever, and Dean had recently had his bike de-restricted, which is something that everybody does, you know what I mean, just gets a little bit more out of them. But so we're flying down this A road, and Dean is just off like a whippet. He's just like, he's flying this little 50cc. He was a little fella, and the bike was, I don't know, his bike was just a lot faster than all the other 50cc bikes. So I had to keep whacking my throttle back and catching up with him and saying, Dean, like, can you slow down a bit, please, mate? Because you're already in Southend, and then, like, I ain't even started. You know what I mean? But yeah, but the funny thing was, we got to Southend and we was driving around Southend a little bit, and then Dean's bike just conked out, and we was like, oh my God, he just burnt the life out of the engine or whatever, flying down there. So then that starts it off. So we're all there. Dean can't go anywhere, his bike. So we've had to phone his brother Ian and basically say, Ian, can you bring your van to Southend and pick your brother up and his bike, because otherwise he ain't getting out of here, do you know what I mean? So we had to sit there for like over an hour waiting for Ian to turn up, like, and Ian eventually turns up with his little van, and basically they stick the bike in the back, Dean jumps in the front with him, and then they're off, you know what I mean? Like, and at the time we was umming and ahhing about, should we just go home now? Should we just follow Ian back? Like, and then I don't know why, but some of us were like, no, let's have it. We're in Southend, let's have it. So we was like, said goodbye to Dean and Ian, and just we was just like flying about Southend, you know what I mean? You get all the people down there with their silly cars and that. Well, I'm saying silly. When I was 17, 18, I was exactly the same with my motors, but yeah, there's just silly cars, isn't there, at the end of the day, like, and you know what I mean, doing Citroen Saxos up to be some stooped up little car, you know what I mean? It ain't nothing. What's a Citroen Saxo at the end of the day, you know what I mean? But when you're that age, you just love it. So anyway, we spent the day down there doing this, doing that, driving around on our bikes, eating fish and chips, whatever. So, and then when it it came. It was in the evening, quite late, and we was like, right, let's go home now. Like so on my bike, my petrol gauge must have been broken, yeah, because we're at a petrol station, everybody's filling up. There was I can't even remember who there was. There was me, James Gummer, Paul Hanyans, Darren Mills, Dean's already gone home, and that might have been it, just the four of us. So we're at this petrol station, and all three of them have filled up, and I'm looking at my gauge, and I'm like, still got a full tank of fuel. Like I should. Well, it's a bit stupid to think that I can drive around on 125cc two-stroke and not burn any fuel. You know what I mean? Throughout the day, I should. Silly me. Anyway, so they filled up, and then boom, we're on the A road, and we're on our way home. Now I'm not even sure what way we came into London, but for some mad reason, we just ended up in Holborn. Don't ask me how or why, but we was in Holborn. And then boom, my bike starts coughing and spluttering, and then boom, it stops. And we're like, everyone stopped, and we're like, fuck. And then we realised that it has to be the fuel situation. Do you know what I mean? I straight away knew that I should have filled up when them not filled up. But we was like, what are we gonna do, and all that, and James and Paul said, don't worry, we'll go and find the petrol station and fill up some Coke bottles of fuel and bring it back to you. And I said, oh, sweet, all right. I said, they're probably going to make you buy a jerry can, because I don't think they're going to let you put fuel into Coke bottles. But, all right. And Darren, staunch as anything, he's like, oh, don't worry, Chapman, I'll wait with you, mate. And I was like, nice one, Darren, cheers, mate. Top fella. No, but... So anyway, James and Paul have gone off to get me fuel, supposedly, and me and Darren are sitting there, and while we're sitting there, it's so funny because we're sitting there on mopeds, both of us, yeah, and then a police van's gone past, and they're just all looking at us, and that's it. They start to come over, and they're like, right, what's going on, and all this, and we're trying to tell them that I've run out of fuel or whatever, and Darren's saying that he's just waiting with me, until the others get back with fuel for us or whatever. And he's like, all right. But we had to show our insurance details and all that stuff that they asked for. Anyway, they was happy in the end, so they drove off and left us. Anyway, we're sitting there, and we must have been there an hour and a half by this time, and we're just like, they're not coming back, man. And then Darren's with me, and his bike's full of fuel. He could have just drove off and gone home, you know what I mean, right? But he's I said to him, I'm gonna have to push my bike to the nearest petrol station, you know what I mean? So I think there was a so-called Texaco garage in Clerkenwell Road, which weren't far from where it weren't close, but it weren't far, you know what I mean? Pushing a moped, it was quite far, But I'll tell you what, right? I've had to push my bike to this thing, and it's taken about 45 minutes, yeah? And Darren, even though he's full of fuel in his car, he's walking next to me, pushing his bike along, yeah? Unbelievable, top fella. Do you know what I mean? What can I say? He didn't want to leave me on my own, whatever. He stuck with me and pushed his bike all the way to this petrol station. And then basically I filled up my bike with fuel. I think he might have even had a top up as well. And then I've hit the electric start, and after a second of we had life in the old bike. So I mean, it was mental. We jumped on our bikes and we drove home. Darren was living in Burley Road, so we get to Burley Road before we hit Ingester, you know what I mean? So he's like, I've stopped there with him, had a chat with him from it, thanked him, you know what I mean? Didn't have to do that, Darren, but that was, seriously, take my hat off all day long to you. Thank you, mate. Top fella. So yeah, I left him in Burley Road, and then I've sort of drove round to Ingester. gone through Ingesta and then gone up the Ambrook Hill to where my ramp was, because I used to take my bike up onto the balcony. There's no leaving bikes downstairs, you know what I mean? Be there 5 seconds. And it's funny because like as I was going up my ramp, I looked down and to where James used to park his bike, like, and it's like his bike was there, chained to the fence. He's indoors. Paul Hanyon didn't live around in Gester, so he's gone home, whatever. But do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just there, like, this is a good couple of hours later or whatever, and I was thinking, oh. So anyway, went home, parked the bike up outside mine, stuck about 1 million locks on it because you have to, especially in London. And then. Yeah, the next day after, when I woke up or whatever, I went downstairs, like, I think it was the Sunday or whatever, and just, like, everyone's out and chatting and that, and James was there, and I was like, James, what's happening, bruv? You know what I mean? No calls, no nothing, you know what I mean? You didn't tell us that you couldn't get fuel or whatever. And he apologised and said that they couldn't find a petrol station and like whatever, do you know what I mean? But they didn't come back, so what can you say, you know what I mean? Life's life, innit? But the old moral of this story is, cheers Darren Mills. I'm telling you what, mate, I'll never forget that my whole life, you know what I mean? That was absolutely amazing. You're a geezer. Yeah, so alright, so that was a little bit of a different chapter this time, but yeah, sweet. Hope you've enjoyed that little one, and I will chat to you soon, baby. Mwah. Chat tales. Don't you wanna hear some chat tales?